Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm your mate. Can I say it? Can you give yourself a little bit? Is it good or bad to do self-praise? I am your amazing host. It's that time again. Colin Campbell Chemicals, Keeper of the Greens, is coming at you. This is episode number 61. I'm extremely proud to bring to you Keeper of the Greens once again, which is brought to you by Colin Campbell Chemicals. Colin Campbell Chemicals is a 100% Australian owned and operated company that is a leading supplier of crop protection products for the needs of the turf and broader horticultural industries right across Australia. Not only are Colin Campbell Chemicals Australian owned and operated, in 2020 they celebrated 80 years of being in business since their inception by Colin Campbell Sr. back in 1940 in Alexandria, Sydney. Colin Campbell Chemicals has always had a focus on developing new technologies and bringing solutions to the turf industry. Their product range is a testament to their continued focus into their 82nd year of business as a wholly Australian owned and operated company, with some of those products being produced right here in Australia. If you want to know more about how Colin Campbell Chemicals can help protect your turf, then you need to go to their website at campbellchemicals.com.au or talk to Nadeem directly, whose details are on the website under the Contact Us page. And don't forget to tell them that the Golfing Greenkeeper sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to launch back into this wonderful segment that it's starting to captivate so many people across the country, both in greenkeeping and in golf. Fans of golf as well like to learn a little bit more. And we're going to go, we've been in the depths of the cold of Tasmania. We've been in the absolutely searing cooking heat of Kalgoorlie in Western Australia. We're going up to what they say is beautiful one day, perfect the next, to the state of Queensland, where I have on the line Superintendent Gibson-Smith from the Glades Golf Club. How are you, Glenn?
Good, Steve. How are you, bro?
Mate, I am well. Thank you so much for being part of this. I'm excited to have a chat to you and learn more about your story. Now, you and I know each other a little bit. We've known each other for, it's probably been about 6 or 7 or 8 years now. I think you come up to a golf day first, I think, that I was running up in the Blue Mountains there a long time ago now.
Yeah, a long time ago now. It would have been probably about 8 years ago. What a great golf day that was.
That was fantastic.
Blue Mountain Classic. Yeah, wasn't it? It was great, mate. You did a great job, yeah.
Good fun, mate. We get all the greenkeepers around in the Central West and we're at the Blue Mountains. That one was, I think, Wentworth Falls Country Club. It was my old home track as a kid growing up where I started my apprenticeship. And from memory, and I'm just going to throw you out there now, I think you guys shitted in. I think you smoked at home.
I think we had we're the first at the post, so we're pretty stoked. Yeah, it was. I think me and the assistant Darren at the time.
That's right.
A couple of other boys. We had a great day. So
absolutely.
Good. Yeah, good. We course. It was fun, mate. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate.
That's where we met. Would have been probably 8. Yeah, it would have been at least 8 years ago. Probably would have been 8 years on the button nearly.
Mate, pretty damn close. So, mate, look, let's have a bit of fun with this one. I'm curious to, like I said, talk about your story, learn your greenkeeping background, and then we'll learn a bit about where you are now as well at the Glades. Lots has been happening up there in the Gold Coast along with the east coast of Australia. So we'll get into some of that. We start off with Steve's Super 7 questions, mate. Quick, short answer questions. Are you ready to rock and roll?
I am ready when you are.
Okay, mate. All right. Number seven. I'm going to go. You know what? I'm going to go in reverse. Let's do it because I stuffed it up. So let's go backwards. If you could visit one golf course anywhere in the world tomorrow, which one would it be?
Oh, see, it's a tough one for me. And I've heard this question a couple of times. A lot of people say the usual ones. But I think for me it's... I've been down Magnolia Lane, so I've been close enough to it when I was in the States. So I was very fortunate, and I nearly got on, but I couldn't get on. But to me, I think, because I am, a lot of people probably don't understand, but I'm quite a traditionalist, so I'd say St Andrews.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Well, yeah, which I know a lot of the boys are away heading over. They're lucky enough to head over there the next couple of weeks.
That's it, the 150th. That's right.
So that's for me, just for the fact of... being a little bit of a traditionalist for sure. So,
That's
I love
mate,
that type of golf. Love that type of golf.
What a start! That and that's a notch. That's one. We'll notch one up for the St Andrews. It doesn't seem to get a lot of love, as you rightly pointed out, but a good start. All right, we'll go back number 6 now in reverse. So your favourite bunkers, your favourite bunker style, is it Kingston Heath, Royal Adelaide, or the Australian?
I'd say Kingston Heath.
Very, very good. Very good. We go back now. Number 5, your favourite grass variety. This one I'm curious about.
It has to be bent. It has to be, it has to be bent grass. I've had enough experience with it now, so it has to be.
You're certainly flying the bent grass flag up there on the Gold Coast in Queensland.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Now, after number 4, after a golf shot, do you prefer for people to replace their divot or put sand down?
Sand every day. Yep.
That's a good answer. It's the right answer. Well, I could say it's the right answer anyway. It's what works where you are as well, so that's good. Now, number 3, stripes or no stripes on fairways?
So this is an interesting one. I think stripes work for a parkland golf course, and I think the 50-50 traditional works for a link-style golf course. So
very good answer.
It's a hard one because it's each their own. But I love them both, mate.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a bit of horses for courses. We all pick one essentially, but realistically, I agree with you. And the more I talk to people, and the more I visit and talk to architects and players and all sorts of stuff, it really is what fits that landscape of wherever it is that you're talking about. I think so. No, mate, good answer. Now, number 2. This one can be controversial as well. Dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course?
Oh, dogs all day. Yeah, dogs definitely. Yeah, dogs definitely, mate. Yeah, I think they're great. Yeah, they can be a great asset actually to a maintenance team for sure.
Absolutely, become a bit of a team mascot.
Problems and things like that. Yeah. I think it's if you can train them up well. I know a couple of the boys down in Sydney. They've got them really well trained. My little Fluffman's not really trained out well, mate. So he's once in a blue moon he comes back out because he's a terrier. But I know if you can train them up well enough, you can. They're a mascot and an asset to the team. So,
yeah, that's true.
For sure. I think dogs.
That's
fine,
true.
You know?
Very, very good. Very good.
Yep.
Now, final one, mate. Number 1 in reverse: sunrise or sunset?
I would say sunrise.
Sunrise. Very nice. It's a
great,
good, positive one to finish on. What a way to start the day. Well done, mate. I thank you very much for being part of the Super 7. Good answers and good comparisons. People listening, they love to compare with their own thoughts as well, which is great. I love it. Now, mate, let's get stuck into the big time. Let's talk about you and your career, and I think there's going to be some good stories coming out of this one. I'm setting my sights on some good stories. Now, anyone who hasn't picked it up yet, they've probably noticed there's a bit of a twang in your accent there. You're a Kiwi. You are a Kiwi. So, actually, you are the first international person that I've had on here that's not Australian, but you're working on an Australian golf course. So welcome, mate. You're flying the flag for the internationals.
Thank you. Yeah,
now, mate, let's talk about your start. How and where did you first get into greenkeeping? And I suppose I'm curious because I don't know your previous 8 years ago. Is it something that started for you back in New Zealand growing up, or was it something when you came to here? So, mate, fire it up for us.
Right. So, first and foremost, I am from. If anyone is listening that knows New Zealand, I'm originally right down the base of the South Island, from a place called just outside of about an hour and a half south of Queenstown, where most people know, but it's a place called Invercargill, which is right down the base. It's a very cold place, and I started my apprenticeship at a place called Greenacres Country Club. Now, for me, it was it's a great wee parklands golf course, but there was a couple of really good golf courses down there. But this was probably a second or third pick. But I was very fortunate to have a really, really great mentor back in the heyday with Trevor Ballantyne, and he was always keen for me to get to through my time and go and see different parts of the world with what we do, you know. And it was, for me, I was just out of school, and I grew up playing union, as you do, in rugby union and
of course
in New Zealand, and
of course.
I started picking up golf clubs, and when I was about probably 10 to 11, and I absolutely just fell in love with the game. I wanted to get better, and I wanted to keep pursuing actually a career professionally. And once I suppose I got to that age, that ripe old age of that 17, 18-year-old that thought maybe I'm not cut out for this. Firstly, because I didn't have the adequate ability, but also not the best mindset for the game. You know, if you've played with me before, I can get a little bit hot-headed with the game.
That's the passion coming out in you, mate. Let's be honest. We'll call it the passion.
So I played a lot of amateur stuff in New Zealand. So that's what I grew up playing, and I just fell in love with the game. And I was either going to go. Pretty much that's how it got into me, because for the fact that I wanted to stay within golf, because I enjoyed the game and I enjoyed everything it represented. And once I figured out that I couldn't probably have the ability to turn professional, I was either going to just teach it or I was going to do the greenkeeping side of things. And I was very fortunate that Trev grabbed me under the collar one day, because I'd played there and I'd won a couple of club championships at Green Acres, and he said, "Do you want to do an apprenticeship?" And I just said, "Well, yeah, I'd love to."
Right.
And that's how it all really started with Trev. And so 3.5 years later, I suppose I was qualified, and it was just a great experience with a guy like that.
So that's like a fork in the road, really, in life. Like you said, you got the passion for golf growing up. It sounds like you and I sort of started golf at a similar age. I think I got into it at the age of 9 up in the Blue Mountains at home, and you get in, like you said, they're 10, 11. And we all know you Kiwis are mad rugby union players. That's your sport. In Australia, it's generally speaking AFL and rugby league. And for anyone listening, if you're not sure, Kiwis are the best at rugby union and have been for so long, and it's in their blood is rugby union. It's incredible, especially down that South Island. Isn't it Dunedin, the House of Pain? Is that the?
Yeah,
is that?
Bang on. Yeah, you're right.
Mate, there's been some cracker. Yeah. I love sport. There's been some cracker test matches between the Aussies and the Kiwis over there. I don't think we've won since like 1982 or something at the House of Pain from memory. Yeah. But there you go, mate. So at the age of you took that, you took the chance to go into greenkeeping, given the opportunity into greenkeeping. And we hear that you come from golf, and I know you can hit a ball, mate. You're talking loosely that you're good at golf, whatever. You can smoke it. And when you flogged it in at Wentworth Falls in our greenkeepers, that was probably when I realised just how good you are. Yeah. What do you play off? 1?
I think we're still at scratch, I think, at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
Don't play enough, but just what it is, what it is. But
cool.
So still play a little bit, enough anyway.
So is an apprenticeship in greenkeeping in New Zealand similar? Now, you probably had a few apprentices go through your time here in Australia. Is it a similar type of thing over 3-4 years? How does it work over there?
3.5 years. So the way we did it, we would go to a thing like block courses back in the day. And we did it for 2-week block courses up at Massey University, which is up in Palmerston North. So I would travel up there and stay up there for 2 weeks, and we just knocked it out and did a lot of the stuff online. It was pretty much, it wasn't once a week like it was over here. It's more so set up to in block courses, which I found great for me. It was, getting stuck in for 2 weeks, and then obviously you're learning all the on-job stuff, which was fantastic in a sense. And this is what I really appreciate from where I suppose am now to where I was back where I started with Trevor, because the way he taught it, it was just me, it was him, and there was 2 volunteers that ran the entire golf course. So what happens when you're in a golf course like that, you learn everything. So
you have to, right?
Absolutely, as an apprentice, and that's what I love. And I always tell my apprentices, sometimes it's not as good to go to a big course to do your apprenticeship. I think sometimes you get lost in the numbers and you don't learn as much as you would at a smaller club. But it's each their own, I suppose, at the end of the day. But I think. Sure. I think it was great for me, and then going overseas and doing all that stuff that you'll hear a wee bit later that really lit the candle for sure. But that's how it was. That's how it was all run over there. It was very, very similar to Australia. About 3 to 4 years it usually takes to do your time, and then you can move on to Yep. Other things, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds interesting. And I suppose I'm
Yep.
curious, like that's, like you said, it's the bottom of New Zealand. That's like the bottom of Tasmania, I think, latitude-wise. It's so far down there. It's cold. Did you guys get snow? I don't know. I don't know New Zealand that well.
Nothing crazy.
Okay.
So what happens is I grew up on a farm, and that's how I suppose my parents run a dairy farm down there, and they call it the Southland Plains. So you'll know the beautiful mountains and the scenery from Queenstown, and that's where majority of the snow goes. And then you run into all the farmlands. It's probably some of the best produce. You might hear of Fonterra, a big dairy factory. That's where all the good milk comes from New Zealand.
Okay.
So that's where all the best produce comes from. There's a lot of it comes from the Southern Plains, and a lot of my family are running farms back there, and it feels like you're a world away when you're living on the Gold Coast when you go home anyway for a couple of weeks to see everyone. So yeah, it was a bit, growing up on a farm, you can't beat that. You're going out there and doing that. And that's what felt, I suppose it was the golf, but then it was mixed in the sense of, I suppose that farming sense, with greenkeeping. I always have arguments with my father for the sense of he's trying to grow thatch and I'm trying to reduce it. So we're doing the exact opposite things. So that's, I suppose it's, golf was one thing, but also growing up on a farm, it's very similar things. You love machinery and all that type of stuff.
I think, thinking about my grandfather was a farmer here in Western Sydney. Well, yeah, in northwestern Sydney, at out Jura way, and Italians and they're farmers, and that's what they did. And I backwards. So when we were kids growing up, we used to go out in the farm and all that sort of stuff. And I think when you work out, like you said, that upbringing of being outside and on a farm and a large property, you notice you're more acutely aware of the climate, of the weather conditions. These are all things that become second nature that you notice when you're working on golf courses. I found that you're very acutely aware of things start to change, things start to move. It's just there in your subconscious. And like you said, we're going to greenkeeping. That's why I know I connected so well with greenkeeping, is because I had that little bit of growing up and I enjoyed outdoors. And hearing you grew up on the farms there in the southern parts of New Zealand, it's fantastic. It must be I love the South Island. I've only been to the South Island and driven all around it into the high country and all the coastals, Kaikoura up north and across to the west side of Greymouth and then down. But it's magnificent. It really is. And I can't imagine how beautiful that must have been growing up and going home. It must be nice to go back home once a blue moon, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's only from the Gold, from Coolangatta, from the Gold Coast to flying to Queensland, it's like 3 hours. So it's like 3.5 hours. So you're a smaller trip from flying from Brisbane to Perth, which is hilarious.
It's further to go.
Think about it,
It's further to go across country than it is to go across the ditch. It's incredible.
Yeah. Hence the reason of the ditch, isn't it? So it is. Yeah. So then
so after Green Acres, you said it was.
Yeah, Green Acres Country Club.
So where did that take you? You finished your time there, as I think you mentioned under Trevor. What happened next?
Yep. So I found I was very fortunate to get awarded an internship through the Ohio State University. Now this was brought upon me from a guy who I don't know. There's a guy called Corey Finn who he's running a golf course called Saadiyat Beach in Saudi Arabia.
Wow!
And he just won the award for the best superintendent in the Middle East. He just ran a tournament over there.
Wow!
I don't remember what the tournament was actually, but it was a European Tour event, and he's doing great things. So he was the apprentice before me. So he kind of led my way into thinking of what kind of doors can be open when you do travel. So he went over there probably, and then just kept moving around the country. And there's a funny thing about Corey is that my old superintendent and mentor, Robin Doodson, when Robin went to work at Doha, Corey was the assistant under Robin.
Right.
So Robin went from Century Cove to with Corey at Doha Golf Club. So Corey kind of led the way. Corey led the way for me, and also Trevor. Trevor was a big push for me because I was probably a little bit of a difficult. I'd say one of his more difficult apprentices for sure.
Right.
I was at that age of that 17, 18-year-old thinking I knew everything when I didn't know absolutely anything. And so a lot of these, it's funny how much you get brought back in when you see these guys going over there and thinking they do know a lot, and then you go over to a place with world-class golf courses. So from that, I got accepted, and I worked at a place called Oakmont Country Club.
Now that's got a name and a half to be at.
Yeah, it's got a solid one. So when I was there, we just had gone through the US Open. We were the top 10 ranked golf course on the planet.
Wow.
And the year that I was there, we were the best maintained golf course on the planet. So
wow.
You can only imagine what went into that. It's kind of hard to believe that I'm talking about this because it's a place that's really, really close to my heart through John Zimmer's the old superintendent. Now, Dave D'Alessandro was the assistant there, now superintendent. It's a place like you've never looked after grass before, really, to be honest with you. It's crazy what they did to it and what different techniques they used, with the renovations you're learning. Then you're learning about the wilt management, like growing up in New Zealand. Their fairways were better than any bent grass greens that I'd ever seen because it was complete bent grass, but their fairways were better than anything I've ever seen.
Fair
so going to a place like that, holding, it's the most US Opens of all time. And 209 bunkers or something like that, something crazy.
And on TV, it looks incredible on television. And when you go behind the scenes and you start looking after it and caring for it and maintaining it, you're seeing how much more. You sort of have this whole new appreciation for. You're already in the industry. You've already got an idea. It's great. It looks great. I'm seeing it up close. It's still great and bloody incredible. And now we're looking to maintain. This is how they maintain. This is on another level. Like this is a whole new ball game, isn't it?
Yeah. It truly is. And it's the biggest thing I suppose that I found over there. Was the respect that you had within the community. So we'd go down to the pub for a beer, us and the boy, like a few boys would go down there and have a few beers and enjoy ourselves after a hard day. And it would have been 12 or 13 hours at least. And we go in there and you're still wearing your uniform, you've got your jacket on or whatever. And the respect that you had as just a greenkeeper was unbelievable.
Really?
They held you in such high esteem over there that it was incredible that you were working at that facility that Oakmont. So Oakmont, just to give you a wee heads up, it's about 25 to 30 minutes away from Pittsburgh. It's in a place called Oakmont.
Okay.
And the small township that is Oakmont is built around this world-class golf course. And the golf course I had the opportunity to actually stay in the clubhouse. So the clubhouse, if you see the clubhouse next time there's a tournament there, I stayed in the third window across from the right. So
there you go. Well, anyone listening, you might as well Google it now to get an idea. Go and Google that one.
Yeah, for sure. So it was a thrown into the deep end. Amazing experience for me, and I don't think I'd be in the position that I would be today that it wasn't for them, because you figure out where you are in greenkeeping sense of the word and what goes into a world-class facility, Like I didn't get a day off, I didn't get a day off for 6 months. I was doing 110 hours a week working, and it was just, you can either, a lot of people do get broken from Oakmont because they do have that.
That's intense.
That mentality, it's a crazy mentality. But for me, it was just at that time I was 20, 21 years old, and I was so driven to succeed and learn so much about the golf course itself and the championships that America hold, that I'd always wanted to get across there, and experience it. And I just went full noise on it, really.
And it's not like it's an opportunity that's going to pop up next year. You're just someone's going to tap you on the shoulder. Hey, Glenn, do you want to go back to Oakmont, mate? That doesn't happen, does it? I mean, you've been given the chance, the door's opened, you've taken it, and it wouldn't have mattered at that age, I imagine. You're over there to learn, Really.
Correct.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you're there for. So if you're not committed, if you're not going to go headlong into it, you're wasting not only everyone else's time, but certainly your own time in your career.
And absolutely. And that's what I talk about when I do a couple of talks about the Ohio program. I think people have got to be switched on that they are going to have to work hard. It's not a holiday, but you're doing it for your career. So just have that in your back of your mind. If you guys are listening to this, that the fact of the Ohio State is a fantastic tool to be able to put yourself in a position where you need to be in your career, and then work your butt off, and you can achieve anything. Yeah, it opens so many doors. The amount of networking opportunities that I've got from working at a place like Oakmont and traveling around America, working at different PGA events, and knowing so many more people than just staying at home and not having the opportunity to do it is I would never be and never know the amount of people that I do within this industry without it. So I think you're there, go and do the job, go and enjoy it, and get stuck in and be amongst it all, because it's an amazing vibe when you've got 55 guys in there that are all greenkeepers. They're all qualified greenkeepers. So you're trying to do your best and enjoy the time that you're there. And like I said, it's just such a historical place and a really, really fun place to work.
That's incredible. Wow. What a way to get into and really open your eyes, open your mind, blow your bloody head off, no doubt, at the same time.
Correct.
And I've heard that so many of the superintendents that I've interviewed in Keeper of the Greens have so many of them have been part of, in some point of their career in their early days, been part of the Ohio State program. And you hear about, like you said, that there's that reference, the learning, the steep learning curve, the welcome to first grade, if you like, of going from wherever you did your time as an apprentice to getting out there and being part of some of the major events over in the States at some of the best known courses and the best regarded courses on the planet. Mate, so when are we talking? So roughly what year were you over there?
I was there through, geez, I'd have to think, it was 07 to 09. Okay. I think I was through there. I was through there for that amount of time. So I stayed there the whole time at Oakmont, and then John just sent me around, and I just travelled through a couple of different tournaments through the PGA events. But while we were there, we cut a heck of a lot of trees down through when I was there. So that's when I was, and then I come back and I flew back from there. I got offered a job before I came back with John at just an AIT, which they call an AIT, which is an assistant in training. But I was there, and I was thinking, I think we need to make tracks back and just see where life goes from that. I was getting to the point that I couldn't see myself doing this for the rest of my life, in a sense of, working, 6 months straight without a day off and doing this crazy work. So I thought, let's just give it a rest. Let's go back to the farm. Let's get back to home and see all the family. And everything like that. And I went back to New Zealand at that stage, and I worked for my brother, who ran his own contracting business. So I worked for him for about 3 months, and then I jumped on a plane to Australia.
Right.
With my girlfriend, now wife, at that stage, and we've been here ever since. You haven't got rid of us yet. You haven't kicked us off yet. So.
You're stuck.
Yeah,
you're stuck or we're stuck, whichever one.
I'd say you're stuck. Yeah. Yeah.
So okay. So was that break? And I talked about this in the last one a little bit with Sean Bowder from Royal Hobart. It's a bit of a mental break in your career, in your life. Like you said, you go over there, you work hard, and I'm sure you play hard at the same time, because that's normally something that you've got to have a break from too. That you come back and you just go, look, I just need to let the dust settle a little bit. I've learnt so much. My mind needs a bit of a break. And you come home, you do something a little bit different for a period, just to get your head together and work out what's next. Is that what you sort of felt like you had to do?
It was to that point, yeah. I had done what I went out over there to achieve. I went over there to learn from the best. I went over there to get tournament experience. I went over there to create a network. And I was humbleized for the fact that I didn't know everything. And these guys are a total different level of agronomy to anyone that I've ever met. And I had diaries upon diaries of just notes and notes and notes. And I got to the point where I was like, right, I think I've got enough info here now that I can go back home and try and get a role to run my own golf course eventually, even if it's a 5 to 10 year plan.
Yep.
That's literally what I'm going to do. But I wanted to come home and see everything and see the family, and it was just that he was busy, he was flat out. I wasn't even looking for a job, to be honest. I just helped him out for a couple of months, and then I wanted to keep traveling. I got that travel bug. I thought, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep working. I'm not going to work on a farm for the rest of my life. I love what I do. I love working on a golf course. I love the fact of the science, which was a massive thing for me. I learned the science behind what we do, not just cutting grass and spraying it with iron and doing all that jazz. That what I thought was
deep in the agronomy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's what I fell in love with. And so then travelled over to Australia, got here, and was fortunate to get a greenkeeper's role at Santry Cove.
Right. So you went to the Gold Coast. Was that? Did you come over here for a bit of a break and then that fell on from there?
It was more so. No, I talked to Robin, because Robin Dudson, who was at Santry Cove, was best mates with which is funny, which was best mates with Sean Whipp, who is married to my cousin Lana.
Right.
So they were best mates. So they both worked together in England. So he said, I just told Sean that I was heading over to the Gold Coast, and he said, we've got a mate that's running a course over there, and funny enough, it was Santry Cove.
Only happened to be Santry Cove, nothing flash.
So I got a hold of Robin, and he said to me he wasn't going to hire me back in, this is 6-7 years later. He said he wasn't going to hire me because I was a cocky little prick, and I didn't think he needed that. So, but it's funny enough that we're, when was that? So that would be at least, 11, 12 years ago now. And we're best mates. We've been best mates for, 10 years probably, me and Robin. So, So ever since then, so when it started with being a greenkeeper, and then what happened was the assistant at the time got a superintendent role, which was probably a year, 6 months into my tenure as a greenkeeper, and then I just Robin wanted to hire within for the assistant because he thought he had the good guys there, and I was fortunate to get the position as a 2IC, and I worked under Robin for 4 years as the assistant there, which we grew in the new Palms golf course and constructed the new Palms golf course as is today under Roscoe Watson from Santry Cove, which obviously made my transition so much easier into a superintendent, because I kind of, like, the way it's set up, Robin kind of ran it as a director of agronomy and kind of just made me look after the course, which was just fantastic, because it was the experience that I needed, that I could go run a golf course without even blinking, and learning all the planning and the working and the budgeting and the fertilizer and the chemical programs, all that stuff as assistant. So it wasn't like I was stepping in from an assistant role, having to go into my first superintendent's role as a big step. It wasn't a big step. So that was the funny thing. I was looking at, when I was looking, after about 4 years, I was looking at Doha Golf Club come up.
Right.
And I said to Robin, golly, man, this looks like an awesome job. I reckon I'm going to have a crack at this. And he looked straight at me and he's like, well, I wouldn't go for it, mate, because I'm going for it. So that's what happened. So then he ended up, we both ended up leaving within about a week of ourselves, because he went for Doha and I went for, I'd gone for Riverside Oaks down in Western Sydney.
Wow. So
that's how it all played out.
So you spent some time at a 36. So you grew in, like you said, the Palms course. So for anyone who's not sure, the Santry Cove is a 36. It's now a 36-hole facility. It's got the Pines, the Arnold Palmer, the only Arnold Palmer course in Australia, and it's got the Palms, Ross Watson design. So you did your time there. That was your first. You got into your first superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and then the step up came when you went for the gig at Riverside. Yeah,
so it was really, I was at that point that I think I was about 26 years old at the time, and probably not many people do know me, but I'm very confident in what I think I know and where I need to be in certain areas of my life. So for me, it's always been, I need to be here at this time of I'm a massive goal setter, and I think that's great for anyone, especially to be successful in life in general and in their careers. So for me, it was always be assistant by 23, be superintendent at a golf course by 26, be a superintendent at a top 100 golf course by age 30, be a superintendent at the top 100 golf course by 35, as in the world by 35. There's always been goals for me to try and achieve, and sometimes things don't fall in your way. But if you're setting goals and you've got certain things that you want to work towards, you can always, if you fall short that little bit, it's you're still going to be in great position. So I turned 26. So I said to Deuce, I'm going to start looking for jobs now, and he said, absolutely, I think you're ready. And so I was really, really fortunate to get a superintendent role down at Riverside Oaks, and luckily enough, I did get that position. Like I said, I was 26. I went down there and down in the beautiful Western Sydney, as where I met you, Steve, and met a lot of my close friends that I still have to this day down there, and what an experience that was.
Now so you've gone from a wonderful, well-established and regarded 36-hole facility in the Goldie in Sanctuary Cove, being part of the team, to Riverside Oaks. Now, for anyone who's not sure, like, I'm a huge fan of Riverside, and I don't know, you probably learn a lot of the history when you were there, I'm not sure, but Riverside, for a period, for people who aren't sure, that was the home of the PGA. Now, we hear about it now. The PGA is now at the new Sandy Links facility there, with Golf Australia and so on. But back when Riverside hit the ground, when it was, and I had the golf course architect Ted Sterling. I know Ted quite well, and he was on the podcast. I had him a little while ago, and we talked about him being part of the architecture team that did it with Bruce Hodgson. And I'm a huge Riverside. When I was a kid, I went and played there, and I think it was a Jack Newton event, and it had this incredible. It was on television. It was all sorts of things were going on with what was the original golf course, as I call it, which is now Ganguru. You've come down from a 36-hole to essentially a new 36-hole because they'd added the Bungool course. Is that right? At your time, it wasn't that old, the new course along the river, along the Hawkesbury?
It was halfway through construction.
Halfway through, right? So it was coming.
Yeah. So I pretty much finished up the construction and then grew the entire golf course in a sense. I think there was about, I'd have to check with Darren, my old assistant, but I think there was about 6 holes that were kind of growing in.
Okay.
At that stage, and then it was kind of like it was the front 9 plus probably 3 or 4 holes that were just needed to be detailed and growing in. So they had. It was that golf course could have been anything, as you know. I had a lot of walk and talks around that place, and it was a fantastic facility. I was when I first got out there, it took me a wee while, to be honest. I was like, it's only 20 minutes out of Sydney, but it's really not.
It's not.
It's about an hour and a half.
It's out in the bush.
Yeah.
Out along the Hawkesbury.
I'll give you the hot tip. Every greenkeepers ad that I put up, it's a short drive from Sydney CBD. So I got a guy from the States for that, which is young Thomas Jones, who's at Royal Sydney now. So he laughs about that all the time. How I got him out here. So it's a fantastic facility, and we had a great run there for, it was just on, might have been 3.5 years there. I opened up Bungool and right on the Hawkesbury River, like just amazing place. And the way, carry on.
No, mate. I love the whole thing because it's had an up and down time throughout most of its career, to be fair, but it's got the most incredible clubhouses. Like to give everyone an idea, there's no mobile phone service out there, right?
There is now, I think.
Even then, it's in pockets. But it's this funny thing. It's got so much land as part of this long-term development, multiple owners over the years. But this incredible championship golf course, which has aged, it needs work, and there's no hiding from that. You brought in the new golf course Bob Harrison designed, right on the banks of the mighty Hawkesbury. There's there's the old ruins from Marymount, I think the old estate, and it's from the earliest settlements, from the European earliest settlements along the banks of the Hawkesbury in 1830 or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean,
it came up with the veggies.
There's so much going on at Riverside, and it's an incredible facility. So you've grown in a new golf course, much to a lot of fanfare, to be fair, because it was really talked about at what it was going to be like. And it's, mate, your time must have been incredible there.
Yeah, it was something that I'd never seen before. Because firstly, there was a lot of talk about it. There was a lot of, when I was down in Sydney, and I think that was part of the reason, I suppose, it helped me get the Glades job, was the fact that there was a lot of discussion on what we were doing out there. But the thing is that what people don't really understand is that there was no golf. So it was like it was a greenkeeper's Disneyland. We could go and dry cut fairways, we could dry cut greens, dew broom them, and do all the things that everyone wants to do for the grass health at any stage, And when the only issue that I found with it was the extreme. So you had -2, -3 it would get out to, and then it would jump up to 49 degrees in the summer. So
welcome to Western Sydney.
Correct. Yeah. So, but for me, it was really, really fantastic facility, and especially what we tricked up the golf course on the Kangaroo course as well as we could. But you are correct; it did need a little bit of money. It does still need a little bit of money. We tricked it up for a few tournaments there that we had, and we did have a lot of Australasian tour events on Kangaroo and on Bungle, which was always fun to do. So they're the best things. That's why I love doing the job, is for those events and seeing guys and getting feedback on what your product is like, you know. So, but with Bungle, I honestly, it was a $4.5 million build, which was just stupid because it's so ridiculously cheap. So
I was going to say that's pocket money to build a brand new championship golf course.
Absolutely pocket money. Absolutely pocket money. So all they did is it's the native cooch that was there.
Yes.
Out on Bungle, and they literally just turned it over and shaped it, threw in the irrigation, threw in the drainage, and then just seeded the greens. And also we had to reconstruct a few of the tees, but that was it. And that's what I loved about it, though. That's what I loved about it. The fact that the cooch is still the CC1 or the cat-eye cooch one is still the best.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's still the best fairway that I've ever seen in my life.
Wow! Yeah. So it's very much a local. So cat-eye is the local area for anyone's not sure. So absolutely. I assume that's its own. It's really a strain variety of that region, is it?
It is. Yeah, it's the same variety. Yeah, because I was trying to figure it out, and I had all types of agronomists coming out to figure it out what it was, and the assistant there at the time, Darren Ken, he said to me, "It's called CC1, mate. Have you never heard of it?" I said, "No, I can't."
What's CC?
In New Zealand. I've never heard of it in my life.
Only these local cat-eye people know what it is.
Absolutely, and so because it was so hardy, you could literally do anything for it, and it was the only factors is the regulation thing. So I had, as I talked to a lot of people about, I use growing degree days all the time. So if people don't know, it's growing degree days is a really, really good tool that you can use to figure out when your growth regulator pretty much comes out of the plant. So it comes out of the suppression of the plant. So we throw our PGR down, which is our primo, and we had to go really heavy on this fairway to really get the tight surfaces that we can. Like we were going nearly to the extent of between 1.5 to 2 litres, sorry. So just to put you an extent up here, I go 250 mil. So that's how the suppression is different to both different grasses.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Amazing. But because it's such a vigorous grass and such a highly grown grass, you can do anything to it. We did massive renos on it, and it just came back straight away, and it was just beautiful to deal with.
That's incredible. I had no idea. Yeah. So I'd heard stories of, I think, the old Pat Bugden, who used to push things around out the back, and he'd been there been there forever and a day, push it. Because the golf course out the back was always part of the plan. Talking to Ted, it was always part of the plan to build a second track out the back. And when I was a kid, that was a practice fairway was out there. So I did a rally school drive out the back on the golf course back in the day when all my mates chipped in to give me a drive. I was driving the Subaru and flogging the shit out of it out the back of what is now the golf course.
Absolutely. Yeah, it did. Yeah, I think it was a bike track.
They were leasing it for doing all sort, however they could get any cash at it. Like, it is out in the sticks. Like, it's not. It's not.
I know you're saying, Steve. I know you're saying it's out in the sticks, which it is, but it's one of the nicest. It is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The most picturesque place I've seen in Australia in a long time. There's, the cliffs of that Hawkesbury River.
Isn't it magnificent?
It's still probably the best part I've seen on a golf course.
Well, I know.
Anyway, the third green out there.
It is. Yeah. You're up on the edge, literally on the riverbank, and you look across. You got especially in the sunrise, because the cliffs are on the western side, so the sun hits it. You get the beautiful orange colours, and I think like anyone who's not sure, the Hawkesbury's all cut through sandstone ridges, and it cuts through. There's been cliff diving championships along the Hawkesbury as well. It's one of the biggest water skiing. That's right. So this is a very. It is out. I say it's out in the sticks because I still drive out there. It feels like home for me out in the Blue Mountains. But and as soon as mobile phone service drops off, everyone goes, "Oh my God, we must be 500 kilometres from anywhere." But
Can I Hill?
But it's quite a beautiful place, and when you get out there, it's the whole setting, right? It's the quietness. There's no main roads. You don't hear anything. There's lots of kangaroos, for example. You've got the water. You've got the light, the trees, the setting, the stillness of the air on the Hawkesbury, especially in wintertime on a clear day, is nothing short of incredible. And you've experienced all this. You're growing in a golf course, man, and I keep saying that must have been one of the highlights of your career.
Yeah, it absolutely was. So we had, like I said, we had Cat-Eye Cooch, and then we had SR 1150 bent grass, which is nearly like a fairway bent grass, which I actually didn't mind. I didn't mind working with. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. You could really only get it up to like 11 foot, but it was great that Pat probably and Darren at the time chose that bent grass for the fact that it was quite a hardy bent grass when you're getting into those crazy temperatures.
Yep.
I overseeded it with Pure Distinction in 2016 and tried to fine it up a little bit, which was great. And I think that's probably still there to this day in pockets of it. So it's the thick sward with the smaller sward, and it works, and it played great, and it was like I much preferred the pin cross across to the G course, Kangaroo, sorry. Yep. But still it was great. But the thing that I loved out there was the fact that it was great for the fact that we could do, the owners kind of just left it up to me. That's what a lot of these guys got to understand, is that I've been very fortunate in my career to be able to do things and not get held back of what I want to do, and being able to, I suppose, talk in a manner to the owner, to the general manager, to believe what I'm saying is correct.
Yep.
And I think that's an art form in itself. I think to explain them, this is what we've got to do to the golf course to improve it. This is what we need. This is where we need to be at each time of the year. And we were very fortunate. Like, we smoked out the roughs to try and create definition, as soon as the frost.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people don't do that now out there, but it was a really big thing when we did it, because we had that massive, it looked like fescue, the native cooch. And I've still got some great pictures of that place. But the other thing was, it was like a zoo out there. We had koalas, kookaburras, wombat, goannas, the wallabies, the kangaroos, don't get me started, the echidnas. There was a lot of stuff which I'd never seen, especially being in New Zealand or working in the States. We had kangaroos at Santry Cove, but I'd never seen an echidna in my life. I'd never seen a goanna. I thought goannas were just a thing from bloody Malaysia or something.
How big are they?
Oh, huge, mate. Huge.
And then they go straight up a tree.
Oh, my God, mate. I shat myself on the back of the second one day. I couldn't believe it. I was like, where the hell has that thing come from?
Now, you talk about the zoo and the wildlife, and that's another beautiful attraction. And I think that's why it worked so well as this beautiful championship golf course when it come out to be in the early 80s and so on. The late 80s and all this sort of stuff. But I'm going to ask you, as a Kiwi, did you see any snakes? And does that freak you out?
Massively. Yeah, brown finding red belly snakes, all the time. Yeah, it was so scary. Yeah, it was freaked me out.
I always have to ask because I've got lots of Kiwi friends that I've known over the years, and you're all very similar because you don't have snakes in New Zealand. So every time, of all places to be, you're near a river. There's plenty of food.
Correct.
You're going to have plenty of snakes.
No, mate, we when it would get to 45 degrees, we'd go for a swim in the river, like me and the boys who were ever on the hose. We'd jump. It would be me and Jonesy and Scotty Carruthers or Danny McLennan at the time, and we'd go for a swim and we'd swim across the thing. And then there was one time we were swimming back, and there was just this thing following us, and we could see all we could see was a trail. And I was like, holy dooly! I said, that's a snake, and we just bolted, and it was a brown snake following us back to the land. You know? So
now those things will hunt you down. The Browns will hunt you down.
Yeah, I was a very quick swimmer that day. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's unreal.
So,
good times. Yeah. So you spend some time at Riverside, bringing the new course. I keep wrapping it over, and some very unique grasses, and you make these blends and things with a Pure Distinction. You must have been one of the early users of Pure Distinction, were you? I don't know.
I think so in Sydney for sure. I know there was a lot of talk about it in Melbourne. At the time, but that was in, like I oversaid that, what did I say, 2015, 2016. So, that's 6 years ago. So probably, and I know there's been a lot of talk about it lately, but it definitely works. But, it'll be interesting to see how it goes in the humidity of Sydney, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm very intrigued to see it because I don't...
Well, Kalara's got it.
They do. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Ryan's going with it, to be honest with you. But who knows? Yeah, it'll be like I said, 2 or 3 years, and you'll start to see if it's any good or not, I suppose. So,
So your time there ends after 3 or so years, and where does life take you?
Well, first and foremost, the reason for the fact of coming back up was my wife Ange. Which we haven't actually talked about at any stage in this podcast, but she's a lovely girl, and what the whole situation was, she wasn't coming down.
Oh, okay.
So I ran it. I lived in a house on the golf course, and I suppose there was a lot of people talking about the condition of the golf course simply for the fact that I didn't leave. I used those 3 years as Oakmont years and just went crazy and was out there till dawn till dusk most of the time, and tried to get to the condition and tried to get people talking about Riverside Oaks again. That was the biggest thing. But the thing is that I created really, really, really good staff around me down there. You know, with the Darren, Scotty Carruthers. The Carruthers name's very strong out in Western Sydney with Bruce Carruthers and
of course, Bruce. He's stalwart in Sydney.
Yeah. And Scotty had obviously a bad accident, but I love the bloke. He's one of the finest guys you could ever, and friends, to be honest with you, and what happened to him was terrible. But people know about Paul Gumbleton. Gumbo worked with Scotty, and Scotty had a real bad accident, a bad car crash, and he's still dealing with that to this day. But he was great out there. Danny McLennan, I pulled him from Century Cove. He's the assistant out there now, and I got from Thomas Jones, who was from he worked at RTJ on the Ohio program, which was Robert Trent Jones over in Washington there. So I got him back as my other assistant, and Thomas actually took over my role when I left Riverside Oaks for a good, I think, 6 months to a year. But now he's the first assistant at Royal Sydney under Adam Marchant there now. So he's doing good things. He's loving life up there, and I think he just wanted to. When I suppose I left, and I think a couple of other boys left, it's a pretty hard place to actually get staff out there. That's their biggest worry is staff, and trying to get staff and trying to keep the good ones. So it got to that point after 3 years, we got to the position where we could. And then there was staff just trying to leak out because it's a very, very hard place to grow grass. It is such a hard place to grow grass because you've got 3 months to get into the position, because you're either going to be crazy hot or you're going to be freezing cold. So you've got to be in a really, really good position for those 3 months. So pretty much after that, I was never really happy. I know that I was.
Imagine if you come down on your own, mate. You leave your other half up somewhere else. It's always going to be that's always going to have a ticking clock.
Yeah. So I was down to the final few with Manly, who's Luke Luke Partridge got at the end of the day, and to be honest, I don't think I would have bet him out, but I was down the final few with that, and I pulled out of Manly to get the position at the Glades because I needed to get, and just simply for the fact that Sydney was never going to be our home. It was like Angie's parents are up here.
Okay.
They live on the Gold Coast, and we were at that point. I was at that point. I think I was 30, and I was thinking, kids are just around the corner. Where do we want to bring them up?
Sure.
Where do we want to be close to my family, which is in New Zealand? Where do we want to be? With and that was the first time, to be honest, Steve, in my career that I had to put my career as second fiddle. Because
so you were thinking about life, right? These have started to come to the fore. You've worked your ass off, and I can say you've worked your ass off, and then things are conversations at home. Things you're living apart from each other and doing those trips, and then life's got to come back in now. You've got to work out what you want to do in life for yourselves.
Absolutely, and that's what it came down to, and that's. When I talked to Phil Baker, the general manager here at the Glades, we had that discussion, and he just wanted to gradually improve it. Didn't want to, take on the world overnight, and just continue to improve the golf course that is the Glades Golf Club. And even when I was at Santry Cove, I wanted to get my hands on this place because it was. It's the Pines at Santry Cove, which I rate as probably the best up here, but it's very closely covered by this one here at the Glades, just for the fact of it's a championship golf course. If you guys get the opportunity to play off the Blacks, and we've got the greens dialed in where we should have them at certain times of the year, it's a fun place to play. And I'm always trying to push for tournaments around here because I think it would be just a heck of a test.
It's a hell of a golf course.
Yeah, it is, mate. And I love waking up and going into work and dealing with it, but it's been a pretty tough 18 months, to be fair, in the last 18 months, but we'll get to that later.
We will. It's, mate, obviously, like you said, your family life has got you back to the Gold Coast, and that's and the opportunity to be at the Glades. So it kind of really meshed together, perfect timing, right?
Oh, how extremely fortunate was I? Yeah, how extremely fortunate was I? Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I was extremely lucky and extremely fortunate. And sometimes you do got to get a little bit of luck, around what you do. And like I said, when the Glades came up, and it was just a fun opportunity to have, and to be able to get the nod with this job is just, like I said, I was very, very fortunate.
Amazing,
to get it.
Absolutely amazing. So, mate, and look, I make no secret about it. I've seen it on my social media. I'm a massive fan of the Glades. It's one of those places that I call it, coming from Sydney, it's like home. It's like going up there and playing golf at the Glades is like playing at home because you've got the bent grass greens, and we might touch on how the challenge of that is in itself up at Queensland and the Goldie. But it's a very challenging layout. Greg Norman design. It's fun. Right, it's fun. It's so much fun to play. Every hole is just an excitement. You got the awesome par 3. I think it's the 5th. There's just there's so many great golf. The back-to-back par 5s on the front 9. It's just
and back 9.
It's just got so much fun written all over it. The little par 3 17th, you flick across the water. There's great stuff everywhere. Now, tell us a bit about what that was like to get in. You finally got your hands on. You get the gig. You go to the Glades. You're at home essentially. Now you're home with the wife. Everything's starting to gel together. Was there a bit of a sense of this is where I really want to be? This is it at the moment.
Yeah, there was. There was a massive sense. There was a massive sense of that. Of this is the place that I'm going to see, at least the next 10 years out of in my career. That's what my whole mentality was at that stage. I've been here just on 5 years now, and it was when I first got here. I said, right, this is a 10-year plan, and I sat down at that time, and I think Nate. Bradbury from Eastlake, he touched on it about planning, and I think it's you plan your work, you plan, right? I think it's the most important thing as a superintendent to do. So I sat down and I ran a 10-year plan down, and a lot of the things we're not going to be able to do because we're not that fortunate, we're not that well financialized. So that's the only issue with it, I suppose, that I'm never going to be able to get to that position that I really want to be, but you have a fair crack trying, right? So
bloody oath. You're going to give it a red hot crack.
Yeah.
That's huge. So, mate, I'll ask you. So we'll talk a little bit about tell us what it's like to look after the glade. So, what are the challenges in the turf surfaces there? And I've talked about bent for people who aren't sure. For people outside, is the humidity of the Gold Coast, and I struggle with as a human being. So, bent grass is cool climate. It doesn't like humidity for too long. That's where its stresses lie. How do you go about maintaining and keeping good surfaces up there previous to when things started to turn with the flood? So we'll talk about your early time at the Glades.
First and foremost, it's just changing the watering habits. So our watering is water supply is not that great. There's a lot of salts in it, and we've got to be very, very careful on when we do water. When I first got here, they were watering far too much for what the plant was, and they didn't have the correct what the plant needed, I suppose. But they just didn't have the correct equipment. You know, you've got these pieces of equipment now, your TDRs or your pogos, whatever you would like to use, that make the job just so much easier. And the boys, and to be honest, the boys just never really had the opportunity to get them. So when I first got here, I was in that honeymoon period, and I was like, this is what we need. And obviously that honeymoon period's over now, but at least we've got those pieces of equipment that we can use. So we deep water once a week now, once maybe 2 times a week in the heat of the summer. We'll give the greens a 9 millimeter H2O deep water. And then we have the TDR probe. We kind of really try and keep it around that 20 to 25% mark. If we set them up to 25%, they're really not going to go. That they might leach out down to about 15%, but we're usually pretty happy with them not to have to come back in.
So what is a TDR, mate? You mentioned the TDR and the pogos for people who aren't sure. Yeah. What does that tell you? It's a tool. What does it tell you? What information does it give you?
Yeah, it gives you a lot of different info, to be honest with you, with your sodium, and which is in your soil. But the most of the time what we use it for is just straight out moisture. So it's a moisture probe in a sense, that what we use. They're called TDR Field Scouts, and we just it's a 4-foot high tool that you plug in, and it's got these probes on the bottom of it, and you push them into the surface of the green, and they go into, say, probably 3 to 4 mil into your profile, and they give you a reading of the moisture that's at sitting. So, and I apologise for everyone that's listening, because I didn't really go into depth about that at all.
No, that's all good. I like to a lot of this, even for apprentices and people starting their career out, and golfers like to understand a little bit as well, is what that does. So it's essentially, it is a more modern tool on the old ones that we used to use for pH, and stick the little thing in the ground. This gives you so much more info, and it's telling you the moisture percentage in the soil, in that top profile of the soil, like you said, how far those probes go into the soil profile. Correct. And then there's other bits and pieces, like you said, sodium levels, and that which is just salts, which is a challenge in golf course greens.
Correct.
And it gives you a finger on the pulse very regularly, however often you choose to go out with it, right?
Yeah, we use it in the summer. We use it every day. So it's probably our biggest tool that we have on. Whoever's on the hose, they go out with that, and they'll go in hand water areas that aren't up to where we need to be to have them. So what happens with that is that I went out on a really, really sunny day when the greens were starting to wilt, and we found our wilt point, which was down to roughly about 8 to 9%. So that's when the grass starts to wilt aggressively, and would probably only have another half an hour in it before it really starts to bruise up and curl up and go. So our safe point would be 25%, and we let them dry out over the day. But a lot of the time the boys are in here, like there's 3 senior guys that are on hoses, and they start at 7:30 a.m. from December through to March, and they finish at 3:30 p.m. So their shifts are totally different to whoever is out there mowing grass, pretty much, or doing stuff. So that's how we implement our senior staff. And saying that, we have not had to touch a hose in the past 14 months. So
yes, and that's for different reasons.
Correct. Very much so.
I'm being polite. I was being polite. So using that probe, doing those programs that you talked about, it's going to give you the best chance to deliver, and this is what I would like to talk about, is to deliver an experience, the golf experience where, like you said earlier on when you started, things were maybe being overwatered in those hot days. It's a bit more of a guessing game. You go, geez, it's going to be hot today. We'll just turn the heads on, right? And you're going to give them a shitload of water because it's going to be really hot, they said, on the forecast. It's going to be just a really hot day. Whereas now... It's more pinpoint. It's more precise. You can literally look at a number and derive from that what you need to deliver. And that's going to give you, like you said, you get it to X on those readings that you're comfortable with, and then you let them dry out a bit. So we're going to get those. You're able to manage a firmer surface, more consistent surface. It's more akin to, and I talk about Melbourne Gold because I've got to learn and know that a little bit more myself, where we're going to have a little bit more, it's not going to be soft. It's not going to be spongy because you're in a hot environment. You don't have to just keep it too wet where they do just plug up deluxe, where they do get super soft and they really have so much give. You're really giving a bit more of a golf experience now delivering it to the Glades in Queensland.
I think it's more so, absolutely agree. I think it's more so to do with the consistency of the playing surface. That's what I've been a massive believer in. And I think it helps playing. I think it helps playing the game. Absolutely. I think that's a massive add-on for what I do because I want the surfaces to be like the Melbourne boys. We're never going to be like that because we literally can't. We can't beat Mother Nature. But we can do is everything that we control, which is managing your OM levels. So we're grooming once a week. We double groom once a week, no matter what.
That's organic matter. Just
correct.
The acronyms.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude.
You'll keep doing it, and I'll just keep letting everyone know. So that's all good. This is all the organic matter build-up, and that's part of the cushion, what we call thatch, and we want to keep that to a minimum and keep those that direct contact with the grass, leaf, and the soil as much as we can without that sponge in between for golf.
Correct. Yeah, and how we do that is it's just little and often. So we dust every fortnight, wheel-to-wheel applications, and we solid time. We try and get out there in solid tine or ninja tine, which a solid tine is just a small 8mm tine that's on a Pro Core. That you see a lot of the golfers, if they're listening, they hate us doing this, but it simply helps out the plant, and it simply helps out the compaction. Because you've got to think, like, imagine you getting rolled or mowed every single day of the year. You're gonna get flattened out over time, aren't you?
Flat and hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is what it is. It just creates air in the profile. It releases that compaction, helps with the compaction, and helps us manage our surfaces. But the biggest one, and I think what I would lean on, I suppose, when you're asking, and that's just normal stuff that you probably hear from day to day with guys managing turf. It's more so for me up here with the bent grass is managing the moisture. So trying to get that moisture moving through the profile and not holding it. So we use a lot of our products, a lot of wetting agent products, penetrants, to actually draw the water through the surface and then deal with what we have to on the top level. Because obviously the level is going to, the moisture at the top of the plant is going to dry out when you do use these products, but it's better than having them dry than having them sitting wet and creating a fungi environment for sure. Like we can get a
like you said, it becomes an anaerobic space where there's no air. It's all those air spaces have been taken up by water, and you're essentially drowning the roots. They need air, correct. So it's easy. It's much better to manage where we can put those water inputs in as required to the levels you need than it is to really try and get rid of water. There's nothing more frustrating than having too much water. It sounds backwards to a lot of people, but it's so much easier to deal with a drier environment than it is with a wetter one. That's the last thing we want as a golf course is a wet environment.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of wet environments, what a segue. Now let's talk about the last year and a half or 2 years of essentially being underwater. And I will say that there's been so many courses documented, talked about, and we've seen lots of photos of, and you guys are one of many. How on earth do you go to work? You talk about enjoying it. How do you keep a team motivated? How do you go to work? How do you get your head around the recovery and repair of back to back to back? Now, you guys have had so many times you've been underwater. It's not just those big times because you're so close to I think it's Mudgeeraba Creek or something, isn't it, on the back of the golf course there.
Yeah.
It just, you go underwater so much, don't you? You've got this incredible pumping system that you've shown me how it drains the golf course as well. How has the last year and a half to 2 years been for you guys? I mean, seriously.
This is when my voice starts to go a wee bit deeper and a little bit more docile as we talk about this.
Mate, honestly,
No, I'm just joking. It is what it is, man. It is. So, Steve, it's the last 18 months has been by far the hardest in my career, by a long, long way. And you have your good days and you have your bad days. And to be honest, the last two and a half weeks has been most definitely the best days because we're about to get some more rain coming in today, but the last 2.5 weeks have been fantastic as the golf course is just starting to dry up. But yeah, we had, I'm just trying to think, like the golf course in the past 6 months has been shut for 65 days out of 180 days. So that you think about, you don't have to be a mathematician about the amount of money and revenue loss that you've had for the club. It's not great. And then the destruction that we had, we've had two greens that got completely wiped out. We've had to completely rebuild 2 greens, one of them, and also a nursery. And it's a big thing for me because obviously with me, I'm usually a very, very positive guy and where we want to be. Like at the end of the day, we have quotes up on our board and our whiteboard to be the best that we can be and create the best playing surfaces that we can. And we're going to be the best in Queensland. We're going to be the best maintained golf course in Queensland. And they're the motivational things that we can do.
Sure.
But what happens is when you get these floods and you get Mother Nature hammering you so many times, it's very, very, very difficult to keep up that team morale because you have 3 steps forward and you take 100 back. And then the to-do list is forever growing. Your agronomy plan gets thrown out the window, and you're forever behind the 8 ball. It's an amazing thing to see, and it's an amazing thing to see how much water actually comes through the golf course and how much damage there is. Sometimes, it just depends how big it is, how much destruction we have had. We're forever going to be rebuilding from the last year, to be honest. We're not in any shape or form anywhere near where we need to be. We've got a lot of work to do over the winter months, which I'll touch on soon. But, there's a lot of work to do, but we're getting back to where we need to be now. But I suppose to put it into perspective, it's I'm very fortunate to have an amazing staff basis. I'm very lucky to call them a lot of them friends, those boys, and they understand. They've been here a long time. They've seen so many of them, and they know what's cut out for them. I think hiring a couple of new guys, they didn't really know what they had got themselves into when the flood did happen, and we have 3 or 4 days off when we're underwater, and then we work for 12 days straight, big hours, 14 days straight sometimes to get the golf course back open for the owner because we understand that we're losing revenue as we go. So, and the boys are great about it. Like we can, as soon as we get that water pumped away by a huge flood pumps, like you're saying, we can pump out pretty much a swimming pool size amount of water within a minute. To put in layman's terms,
an Olympic-sized pool. That's a meg, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
it's just insane.
Yeah, it's insane, the pumps. Yeah, and we've got 2 of them. So either end of the golf course, and it usually takes us a good 2 or 3 days to pump out the water. So, and that just happens only when the river gets down to a certain level that we can pump out. Else you're just going to keep stirring the water around pretty much when you have them on. So you kind of have to wait for the river to drop and then start pumping out because we're at such a low area. We take all the water from a place called Robina, which is a township here on the Gold Coast. We take all the water that all these buildings are they're built up and we're on the floodplain. So it's just one of those things. I knew what I was getting myself into. It was just the first 2 years that I was here that I was very, very fortunate, and we got some really great feedback in the first 2 years because we had 1 flood in 2 years. And in the last, where was it? 2017 to 2020, from May to May, I had 2 floods, and from March 2020 to May 2022, I've had 14 floods. We have had 14 floods.
14?
So,
Not
yeah,
4?
yeah.
14.
No, 14. Yeah. So, and it's literally one. Yeah, it's nearly like one every 6 weeks to dumb that down for you, to put in that in layman terms. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So you get the golf course back up, and then you get hammered again. So it's really difficult. But I think for me, it's getting the boys and talking to the boys, sitting them down and asking them, are they okay? Checking it on everyone's headspaces, and just to reset and rebuild, and we go again. At the end of the day, we're paid to do a job, and we're paid to maintain this golf course. It just sucks for us that it is on a floodplain, and these things do happen. We change our hours, our days. We do split shifts, which are absolutely vital because we can do things in the dry, and we just stay motivated. We keep those spirits high. We give them small rewards, barbecues and drink and clubhouse food, whatever we can give them.
And those things, and I've got to be honest, and having been a superintendent and run a small team and all that sort of stuff, motivation can be one of the more difficult things to keep up in a team. Mm-hmm. And when you're being battered and bruised every 6 weeks, I mean, that number, I hadn't heard that number before. 14 floods, 14 times you've been flooded. Yeah, I can't. You get out there, you do all the repair work, and then it goes down again. And that level, that's hard work. And if you can manage to keep a team, like you said, you've got great people in the team. So that makes it a little bit easier, I suppose, as well, because everyone enjoys what they do and they love the workplace and delivering what they can. To be able to try and keep that morale up, back the team, keep everyone as muchly motivated as you possibly can. I mean, that's hard work as well, and that becomes, in a sense, a draining thing too on yourself as a leader. And you've got probably other guys in the team as well that are all a group of a leadership group in the team too. I mean, I look at that and I just go, wow, that's awesome, that's incredible. And we hear about other clubs, and there's been a couple that have won recently awards in the conference, and Meadowbrook up there as well in the Goldie. And Linwood down here in Sydney. I mean, everyone's trying to do the same thing, and we're talking about yours and what you've been through. That level of repair, that level of upkeep, and all that is just, my hat comes off to you guys, because that is so much. There is so much in that. Mentally draining, physically draining, to do the big days after the days off, and you've got an owner. That's a different thing as well, as different to a club with a members. You've got an owner who's probably looking at the bottom line going, absolutely. Jesus, I'm hemorrhaging 100%. Cash,
and we want to be open tomorrow.
That's right.
What it comes down to. Exactly.
So there's a different drive in that as well. I mean, every golf club wants to run it, they're there to make money as well. But when you've got someone that specifically owns I'm sure that's different on them too. Yeah. A lot of the golf course, the Gold Coast, is floodplain in itself. So the Gold Coast in general is reclaimed land in a sense, and a lot of the golf courses are built on the floodplain regions. So a lot of you guys are going under. It's like you said, it's what comes with the territory, but it doesn't make it any easier, I'm sure. Like I said, mate, I sat back, I saw you. I was up there playing in Feb earlier this year, and we caught up. And I couldn't believe the recovery on the last big event that you went under with, and you only had a handful of bunkers left to repair. And no sooner had we left the Gold Coast that everything went completely pear-shaped, and the world turned on its head, because that was the worst one we'd seen across the East Coast flood-wise. I was devastated, and I played the golf course in what I thought was fantastic condition. So what you've been through, I'm just sitting there going, I feel for you guys, and I don't know. I just don't know how you get up in the morning and do it. Like I said, hats off, man, and congratulations. But thank you. That's hard. I don't know any other way of saying it.
No, it isn't. No. There's nowhere else to say it, mate. To be honest with you, it's just, for me as a leader, I can't show weakness. So with the boys, I'm very, very strong-faced. I'm very positive where we need to be, right, boys? This is what we've got to do. Our first thing is silt removal. You know the things. We need to get everything off the greens. We need to get the silt off the greens. Priority number one's greens, and the second thing is fairways, tees, and surrounds. Like for me, it's always bop, bop, bop. Like we've done it. We're professionals, I suppose, in the sense of blood damage control. So these guys know because we have a legitimate written down thing. If I'm away, say, and there is a flood, there's a written down, I suppose, cheat code of how to get back up and running. But yeah, I suppose when I go home, the amount of sleepless nights that I've had, the amount of times I've just sat there holding a cold beer, watching the radar, thinking, holy dooly, what have we done here? And my wife has to cop it. These boys, I try to be as positive as I can around these boys because at the end of the day, they don't. It's as a leader, you've got to be positive. It leaks out through the entire staff basis. So
it's contagious.
Absolutely. So my wife, she has to deal with that part of it, and that's she's a legend in herself to be able to put up with that many times. But it is what it is. I'm sure there'll be brighter days on the horizon, my friend, and we'll be back up and running and kicking goals soon. For me, I could talk to you for 3 hours about the cleanup, but I don't think there's much point to it, mate.
It's all hard. It's all hard, and there's a lot to it.
But like I said, there is a process and there is a procedure. So if anyone wants to reach out to me about that process, I can easily just flick it through to you. And it's pretty much we get to renovate the golf course every time. And which is fantastic because now when we haven't had the rain, we're in great position for this time of year, which we never usually are because we never really get to renovate. So that is the only shining light about the whole thing is that because the Glades is privately owned and is it's private but public, so there's always golf on it.
Yep.
We never really get the opportunity to properly renovate the golf course. So when we do get the silt off, we renovate the crap out of the golf course and hammer it. Awesome. So that is the only positive thing.
Right.
About the flood, the only positive. Yeah.
No, mate, that's good to see that there's always a positive after a negative, which you got to be part of, and you got to take it with you as well, mate. Let's start to turn that page, and let's look forward. I suppose a little bit. You personally, you've got a young family now, a little one. Life's different. Yeah. This really is becoming more home at the Gold Coast, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. God's country, mate.
So young family roots are starting to really get down there on the Gold Coast as we look forward to, seeing the Glades repair and start to recover now where we want to attract people back. I want to hear from you. You know the place so intimately, as I always say to superintendents. We do. That's what we do. What is, when we come to the Gold Coast, when we come to the Glades and we play golf, what's something where's a spot on the golf course that when you get there, it's early morning or afternoon, you just go, this is the spot. I love to come here and have a look out here for, a couple of minutes. I just love the view. I know there's one, is it 12 or 14 on the back? You look straight west from the top of the hill. That's one that I think of. What about yourself? What's somewhere that when we're golfers and we come up there and we play, because we're going to come back. We're going to come and enjoy it, right? It's coming. Absolutely. It's open. It's drying out. These things, this is the positive. What's somewhere that you want us to stick our shoulders back and put our heads up and have a look around and take in where we are at the Glades?
So for me, it's funny because obviously I do run a social media account for the boys and for myself, the Glades Turf Management page, and it's funny the amount of pictures I was looking back, because I was looking back through them the other day, and one of my mates commented, actually Stangers from up at Redcliffe, Mark Stanley, and he said, "Man, you keep taking pictures of the 18th hole." So I'd have to say it's probably the 18th. I'd definitely say, I'd say 14, like you're saying, off that black tee off the 14, and you
that's cool.
It's amazing.
There's some hang time from that tee shot.
It's massive hang time, and you're heading straight into the hinterland. That's a beautiful area. It's hard to beat standing at the back of the 18th and turning yourself around to the 10th hole as well.
Yeah, right.
And
that's cool.
I'd say that if I stand there's a tiger tee that we overseed every year on the 10th.
Yes,
and,
I know where it is.
And it's pretty much between the 10th tees and the 18th, back of the 18th green. I reckon if you stand there and you look around a 360-degree angle, you'll see you'll see a pretty good golf course, hopefully, and not underwater. Yeah.
And you got beautiful water, but that's where you cross the bridges. You come out on the golf course out of that back nine. Yep. There's beautiful water bodies sitting there beneath the houses and the villas, and you got the beautiful timber bridges that skirt all the way around as you can work your way back, and they sort of frame that whole water body. And then, like you said, you look the other way, and you got these beautiful fingers of green in amongst the water body. I love it, but it's nice to hear you say it from those bits, because I've never really done that and stood on the Tiger Tee. I know where the Tiger Tee is, but I haven't been there and stood on it. So I'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's probably the one I'd say, because it's such a photogenic area as well. Like it's especially the back of 18. I think the par 4 on 18 is such a fantastic golf hole, and then I think 10's magnificent with your waist bunker there framing that golf hole. And it's like I said, it's as a golfer, it's, as you know, and as a golfer for me, I absolutely love playing around here, and we always try and play. If it's once every couple of weeks, especially at this time of year, we can trick up the greens, and the greens are a wee bit firmer and a wee bit funner. It's always fun to play. So.
As a golfer, as visiting golfers, where do you find what's the best time of the year? Say we're travelling golfers around. People love to fly into the Gold Coast because it's obviously a lot of travellers get up there to play golf. There's so many courses. What's the best time of the year that you find that the Glades is the most playable? Is that the right way of saying it? It's the greens are a bit firmer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a golfer, when should we try and get there that we might not think is, we probably think is something different? What do you think it is?
Yeah, it is. It is slightly different to probably what you think, because you're probably thinking, like this time of year, July, August, but I don't think it is. I think you're closer to your October, November for me.
Okay, so springtime.
Yeah, I think springtime's the money. I think once we've renovated the golf course, and then everything's just starting to wake back up, and the greens are still under the pinch, and they're not totally stressed because they've been in really good shape all winter, and they're just starting to move back up now. I think for me personally, if everything's going to plan, I would suggest around that mid-October, even nearly early November. Because the greens are under no stress in November whatsoever. It's pretty much just December through to March for the greens. Then there's like, even if you get to 31, 32, 34 degree heat in November, which is very rare, they're still not going to be under the heat, under the stress, for the fact that it's very cool at night still. So they get that rest, and that's the one thing in summer, I suppose. Leaning back on that question before, they just get no rest in summer. So like during the winter, during the night, around those November, October times, they get rest. They get to go to sleep at night, and they get to recover, and they get to just enjoy themselves when they're always transpiring in the middle of the summer, and they're always under stress. So that's the biggest reason.
Okay, so there's the selling point. Get out there in October. It's a beautiful time of the year in spring. I'm a big fan of springtime. There's so many reasons. Sometimes the Gold Coast 600 is on the end of October as well for the supercar fans. If you want a big sporting weekend away, you can get to the Glades and play golf with some beautiful bent grass greens. They're the best. I'm not ashamed to say it. I think they're the best going around, mate. So it's great to hear, mate. And on that positive note, Glenn, I'm going to say thank you so much for opening up and talking about your whole career, a bit of personal life there, and all the trips that you've done around all over the world, essentially, and telling us the inside of the Glades as well, and through difficult times too, mate. It's been wonderful and certainly eye-opening for me hearing about your story, where you've come from and where you are today. And I love to hear about those insights from some of those courses you've worked at as well, mate. So, Glenn, it's been really fantastic to have you on the podcast, mate. I really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone's going to have great fun listening to it just the same, mate. So so thank you very much for taking the time out. I greatly appreciate it.
No, mate. No, thanks for having me. It was a blast having a chat to you, man. I wish you all the best in everything that you're doing, and I hope everyone out there on the line are enjoying what Steve's doing, because it's a credit to you, buddy. So thanks for having me, and let's hope there's some sunny days on the horizon, eh?
Absolutely, mate. I look forward to getting back up to the Glades and enjoying it and catching up.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
man.
Glenn. Cheers.
Steve. Bye, mate.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our first international superintendent on Keeper of the Greens, Glenn Gibson-Smith from the Glades Golf Club. Hasn't Glenn got a great story? Come over from growing up on the farms in South Island, New Zealand. And I've got to be honest, look, when I say I've been overseas, I've only been to one place, and that's New Zealand. And I've only ever been to the South Island, and it is magnificent. And really cool to hear that that's where Glenn grew up, down there on the South Island, and the farms, the local farms, the family farms, and now, becoming a greenkeeper. Look at his career, look at his path where he ventured, Ohio program, over in the States, Oakmont, come to back to Australia, and some of the great golf courses in Queensland. Doesn't work. Look, it was really good hearing Glenn's story, and I didn't know it, so that's what I really enjoyed about it. So, like you guys out there who are listening to these stories for the first time, most of these stories, and whilst I know some of the guys that I'm interviewing, I've known them before throughout my career and the like, I don't know their whole story. So, like you, when you listen to it, I'm learning about them when I hear it, when I'm chatting to these guys. And isn't Glenn a great bloke? He really is a champion guy, and anyone in the industry, reach out. You heard him. Any info that he can help you with, certainly when it comes to flood recovery, flood repair, he can help you with those sorts of things. He's just an absolutely generous bloke with his time, and if you want to get in touch with him and pick his brains about all sorts of stuff, I'm sure that he would be more than happy to help you along the way. Just a fantastic bloke is Glenn, and I've known him for a number of years now, and always make the time and enjoy catching up with Glenn along the way. Thank you so much to Glenn Gibson-Smith for that wonderful interview, and for the insight to his career, to how he got to the Glades, all the stuff that he's been through, and times at Riverside Oaks as well, and it's so good to hear and so good to listen to some of those stories. So thank you, Glenn, and really appreciate your time. And I hope you guys out there enjoyed the conversation as well, and hearing Glenn's story and learning a bit about the golf courses. Even obviously learned a bit about the Glades, and it was nice to hear some of the few stories about some of the other courses as well, Sanctuary Cove and Riverside Oaks, for any of those of you that haven't been to those courses too. So always good to hear and really enjoyable, and I hope you got something out of it. Now, as I always say, please like, share, subscribe, because that is very important to continuing to grow and spread the podcast further and further out there, so more and more people get to learn and listen and get excited about golf and golf courses and greenkeeping and architecture and all the sorts of things that come across on my segments on the podcast. I appreciate all of you guys taking the time to give a review, to write a review, and to share your comments and thoughts with me on social media. Had some wonderful conversations in recent times, so thank you, everyone. And I continue to say, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It's really good. Now, I do also forget to mention that in the podcast, in the show notes of the podcast, there are lots of links to all sorts of different links to different things that are talked about in the podcast. So go and check out the show notes, and there's going to be Colin Campbell Chemicals Keeper of the Greens, which this segment is. There's also links to our sponsor, Colin Campbell Chemicals. And don't forget to check out Colin Campbell Chemicals website at campbellchemicals.com.au for more information, their product listings, and how they can help protect your turf, as I've already mentioned. For those of you working on golf courses, and for those of you listening, you might want to just learn a little bit more about the industry as well, if you're not directly employed or working in the greenkeeping industry and you want to learn more. And I know that there are some of you that I've been chatting to on social media as well that are looking to get into the industry, looking to get a start, to get a crack as greenkeepers, it'd be apprentices working part-time, however it might be. I know that there's people out there. I've had the conversations, and it's really, really exciting to hear people that are interested in being part of the greenkeeping industry, that they want to get out there and they want to work on golf courses, they want to work with sports turf, and it makes me feel good that through listening to the podcast, and I'm hearing more and more about it from some wonderful connections I've got on social media, it's really exciting. So thank you guys for reaching out, and I want to hear more. If any of you out there are thinking about it still, if you heard some of these conversations through Keeper of the Greens, some of the other segments that get you excited as well, and you're sitting there thinking about becoming a greenkeeper, I want to hear it too. So, and maybe I can help you along the way. Who knows? But appreciate your time. Check out the show notes. Thank you very much, guys. All very, very good. Now, as I always leave you with, you hit 'em clean, we'll keep 'em green. Thanks for listening to another episode of Colin Campbell Chemicals Keeper of the Greens, and I'll catch up with you soon.